Wisdom. It's one of the most highly revered attributes known in the human world. Across time, cultures, and disciplines, wisdom has been held as one of the highest aims of life. Not intelligence, not strength, not even wealth, but wisdom. Wisdom is particularly interesting because it has withstood the test of time. No matter what language, no matter what time period, cross-culturally, cross-religion even, there has always been some term or concept involving wisdom. For Christians, the Bible reads, "Wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her." And even for Muslims in the Quran, "He gives wisdom to whom He wills, and whoever has been given wisdom has certainly been given much good." I have even more written here, and I'll read just a few. For Judaism, who is wise? One who learns from everyone. And Buddhism, a fool who knows he is a fool is for that reason wise. A fool who thinks himself wise is the real fool. And lastly, Sikhism. He alone is wise who lives in harmony with the will of God. So how has wisdom made its way into these various religions across the world? Even in philosophy, it's evolved but stayed important throughout time. Socrates stated that the only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Aristotle's perspective added that wisdom is the knowledge of causes, the most certain and complete kind of knowledge. And Plato said, "Wisdom alone is the science of other sciences." It has evolved over time, but it still holds its weight in modern psychology and science. The famous developmental psychologist Erik Erikson named wisdom as the highest stage in ego development. He further explained that it was integral in the later stages of life, namely the integrity versus despair stage. Neuroscience has begun to research it as well in how it relates to the brain. They found that wisdom is associated with prefrontal cortex regulation. That means that it's deeply tied to emotional balance, perspective taking, and long-term decision making. So the big question, why? Why is wisdom this revered among all various types of human beings throughout time? To answer this, I think we first need to take a look at just what wisdom is. I've thought about it a lot, and for a long time it seemed more elusive to me. But recently, in my research and thinking, I feel that I've gained a greater grasp on just what it entails, and this is why I'm here to share it with you. Think for a moment on this question. What is the difference between a wise person and a smart person? Most people would argue that there is a difference. Being wise isn't the same thing as being smart. So what is the difference? I bring this up because I think the contrast gives us a clue into what wisdom really is. I'd say 2 words. First, knowledge. Second, judgment. Smartness has to do with knowledge. And on the other hand, wisdom has to do with judgment. I've written here that wisdom begins where intelligence ends. So that means that they're connected in a way, but that wisdom comes after intelligence. And so if intelligence has to do with smarts and knowledge has to do with smarts, then that is what you know. But wisdom comes after intelligence. It's what you do with what you know. Intelligence is the ability to know many things. Wisdom is the ability to discern knowledge. So let's dive into just what that means. I took a look into the etymology and the hidden heart of wisdom as the word. First, let's take a look at wise. From Old English, the root means to see clearly, to judge correctly, or to discern. This was shocking to me. I never would have guessed it. But as I've thought about it, I've realized that it's brilliant. Wisdom isn't just perception, it's accurate inner judgment of what is good, true, and lasting. So it's about appraisal of the knowledge that you know. You can know a variety of things, but what value and meaning do you assign to those various things? Discerning truth from error, rational to emotional, good or bad, that all comes from wisdom because it has to do with discernment, judgment. So to be wise is to see through distortion, not just to gather data. And this, I believe, helps us peer into wisdom as an attribute. It helps us see why it was so highly revered among peoples and cultures across time. It's because true wisdom doesn't just sharpen thought, it has the ability to reshape the soul. Let me show you what I mean. I've written here a definition of what it means to be wise. I've termed it as the skill of accurate perception. Based on its root, it's the ability to judge correctly. So if to be wise is an attribute, wise is the skill, what is wisdom? I feel that it has two aspects. First, wisdom is what being wise yields. In this sense, it's kind of like a truth. If you can say to be wise is a lens, because it allows you to accurately perceive the world and discern and judge. And so as you interact with the world and you're judging, if you judge correctly with a wise lens, then anything you found while making judgments could be considered wisdom. And it's kind of closely correlated to truth. Because if you discern it correctly, then in essence, you've found truth. So that's the first aspect of wisdom. The second aspect is a little different. The second aspect of wisdom that I think is the embodiment of the attribute. And this has to do with how you become wise. In order to receive what being wise yields, you must be able to receive it. It's a difficult concept to convey, but you have to think about it. If I'm having a difficult conversation with a friend, and through wisdom, being wise, I discern that she needs a compassionate friend at that moment, I need to be compassionate toward her, then that could be the first aspect of wisdom, the truth of the need for compassion. But the other aspect of wisdom would have to come from me. Am I capable of being compassionate to her? In this way, it's an embodiment. So wisdom is not just the capacity to see what is true, but the courage to reorient your life around it. So, if being wise, I learned things about compassion, but I never changed myself to be a compassionate person, I don't think I was really wise. I don't think I had wisdom. In order to have wisdom, I would have to reorient myself to become a more compassionate person. And so this leads us to how wisdom is attained. You see, to become wise, we must be willing to do a few things. It takes courage. We have to rearrange our beliefs when discernment reveals something deeper, something we hadn't been living before, something we didn't fully understand. It also asks us to shift our behavior to align with the truth or wisdom that we have found. And lastly, in personal experience, I feel that it has required my own surrender of pride. I have to let go my previous misconceptions about life. And I have to listen with humility, being willing to change. Now we can take a look at these a little deeper with psychological and scientific background. There are a few terms and concepts in psychology that, as I've researched, I've found help us develop wisdom. The first one is cognitive dissonance resolution. You see, the wise allow tension and adjust their internal models instead of defending old ones. In change and improvement, conflict is important. But what separates conflict with contention is the response. When we contend, that means we're holding on to our previous misconceptions. We get defensive. We shield up and put up walls. In order to be wise, we have to enable the conflict to carry out. We have to surrender to it. That means that we let our walls fall and adjust our internal models, adjust our perceptions and our beliefs to accommodate what the new information we found. The next mechanism I found in my research is called cognitive flexibility. And this is the ability to update beliefs and mental schemas when new insights emerge. It has to do with what I was just talking about, the ability to let old beliefs go and replace them with new ones, with the new truth that we found. And lastly, metacognition. This is when you think about your own thinking. It's like a new level of self-awareness, that you're not just aware of what's going on inside your mind, but you're aware of why that's going on inside your mind. When you participate in active metacognition, it helps you recognize your own blind spots. And anyone that has interacted with these practices has come to the realization that becoming wise is really hard. It takes a lot of humility, a lot of courage to change, and a lot of dispelling of pride. So I've written here a few things to help with the pursuit of wisdom that I've found to be useful in my own personal life. As I've tried to change and improve my thoughts and thinking and ultimately behavior, these things have helped me. The first one is stillness. Ultimately, I figured out that it's important to build a conducive environment around yourself, an approach that makes the pursuit of wise the most attractive pursuit in your life. The first step for this is stillness. I found that wisdom often comes in silence, not stimulation. So give yourself time to think. Step away from the world and its constant effort to entertain and stimulate us. It takes deliberate effort, but taking time to step in your mind, thinking about your own thoughts, has always proved beneficial for me. The second step is submission to something higher, truth, conscience, God, or the deeper self. In order to be wise, you have to face a real fact. You don't know everything. Where do you believe truth comes from? Where do you think wisdom comes from? Whatever you think about it, I think that it's important to submit to this. Otherwise, we hold fast to what we think is real and true. But to submit means that we put all that behind us. We're able to let go of our pride and ego and change ourselves for something better. And lastly, integration. Wisdom is not what you know, but what becomes embodied in how you love, decide, and act. It takes another step. This opens a huge can of worms, a huge discussion that we just won't go in today because it's not relevant to the main message of this exploration. But I invite you to look at my other episodes that do dive into this. It can be overwhelming to think of these practices and look at the long road ahead of what you lack. So I want to share a story with you that's uplifting and empowering to the importance of wisdom in our lives and what containing that attribute for ourselves, when we become wise, what that does for us in our life. And it comes from the biblical story of Solomon. Solomon was a famous king, and there's a story in 1 King that relays a dream that Solomon had and an interaction that he had with God. It reads, "In Gibeon the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, 'Ask what I shall give thee.' And Solomon said, 'Thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept him this great kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day.'" He's referencing King David, his father, and the fact that Solomon, David's son, is the next heir to be thrown. "And now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father. And I am but a little child, I know not how to go out or come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people?" And the speech pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said unto him, "Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but has asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. And if thou wilt walk in my ways, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk. This was the dream and the story of Solomon, the great king, gaining wisdom. He was newly crowned and inexperienced. He had huge shoes to fill with David, not only his father, but the previous king. And he was visited by God in a dream. God asks him if he wants wealth, power, or long life. But Solomon asks for a heart that can discern between good and evil, so he can govern with understanding. Solomon asks for wisdom. By this request, God is moved. And it's really cool because Solomon doesn't just get wisdom, but he's also trusted by God with every other temporal blessing. He's given the wealth and power and honor of his people. And I've always wondered why. Why would God trust him with all these things? But if you retake a look at the story, I'll reread a part of a verse that explains that. It reads, "From God, because you have asked for discernment, and not for riches or revenge or long life, I will give you a wise and discerning heart, and all the rest as well." You see, the gift of wisdom or discernment means that you're able to judge things correctly. You see things as they are for reality, and you have accurate appraisal. You know what value to assign things. Is this good or bad? Is this important or not important? So that means that Solomon, with wisdom, could be a righteous judge. And when we as humans are able to judge things righteously, from this story, God trusted him with everything else. Because he knows that with extra things like power, money, or honor, we wouldn't misuse them. But with our wisdom, we'd be able to act in truth. And so this is why I believe wisdom is so foundational, and why it's gained the reverence and reputation that it has over time throughout cultures, peoples, languages, and religions. It's because wisdom affects behavior. It affects every other aspect of life. When we have wisdom, we're able to deal with the good times, the bad times, the wealth, the poor, the good people and the bad people, all in truth. When we have wisdom, we're not only able to make the right decisions, but we're able to become a truly good person. And so this is why I'm here. My name is Dan Clark, and I've started this channel called Wisdom Synthesized. And my pursuit is to synthesize and consider the wisdom of the world. When people were able to put on those glasses of seeing correctly, what were they able to find? As I've interacted with the circumstances of the world around me and various people, I've found that unique individuals have wisdom to offer. And so the first pursuit along this journey is to figure out how to gain wisdom. How do we become wise? I've started the podcast of the first 2 seasons with an exploration of how to change. And I think that wisdom is the integral missing piece. You see, in human behavior, we act based on our perception of reality. We receive sensory data from the world, or even from our thoughts, and we react unconsciously to it, based off the beliefs we hold about ourselves, other people in the world. We interpret everything that happens. And this interpretation creates an emotional response that in turn gives us a prompted reaction of behavior. And so this tells us where we need to start in order to change behavior. If we want to be better people, improve the way we act, we have to start inside our mind, where it all begins. where we perceive the world around us and perceive ourselves. Wisdom is important in this way because it's the skill of accurate perception. Wisdom is what allows us to question the lens, not just the object in view. So with wisdom, perception shifts. And when perception shifts, decisions follow, behavior transforms, and identity realigns. This is about becoming more, discovering who we are, and embodying our real potential. So I invite you to join me on Season 1 in that exploration. I'll be exploring how your mental frameworks are formed, that is, our beliefs about ourselves, other people in the world, how they shape our experience of reality, which in turn controls your behavior. We'll also consider how wisdom helps you re-see yourself, and ultimately, what the attributes of a wisdom lens are and how to put that on. Share this with family and friends. Feel free to comment about a question you'd like me to explore, and I'll see you next time.